Good day, this is Mike Nelson.
And Nicole Olson.
Thank you very much for taking the time to view our video on proctoring the spring assessments here for the 2016-2017 school year. Our goal in the Division of Teaching and Learning around testing time is very simple. We want students to feel comfortable and able to do their best on the assessment. How do we do that? We make sure that the users and those that are in the test environment understand the importance of test security and how to administer exams so that there is no unfair advantage for any of our students along the way. In addition, during this video, you'll be able to see a little bit of some common practices for each of the tests that will be given.
Completing this training will allow you to be present during the following tests. The ISAT Science Test, which is given to students in grades 5 and 7. The ISAT presented by Smarter Balance assessment, which is both English language arts and mathematics, and given to students in grades 3 through 8 and grade 10. That is comprised of both the performance task component and the computer adaptive test. Preliminary results for those will be available within 10 days. Additionally, the end of course science test is given to high school students that are enrolled in either a biology or chemistry course and is only given to students in grades 10 through 12. The testing window will be from March 20th to May 26, 2017. Next, we'll go over some of the testing roles and the appropriate environment for testing students. One of the primary testing roles that you may be playing in testing will be as a test administrator. That can be the teacher of record, and it is generally the person who is starting and stopping the exam. They will assist students with any needs and be monitoring the test administration at the computer, demonstrating tools as necessary, and answering student questions. However, they cannot assist with specifics. Additionally, there will also be teachers or observers in the room. That could be the teacher of record, or it could be an outside observer. If you're functioning in that role, we highly recommend a ratio of 1 observer for every 15 students. Observers should move about the room and be attentive to what is going on in the test environment. This ensures that testing procedures are followed, and you can make general statements to students, such as encouraging them to do their best.
The most important thing that we can do to support our students is provide them a great testing environment, void of distractions. Please try to turn off televisions, the bells, announcements, and provide them a quiet environment where simply they feel comfortable to do their best. Try to space students out also so that all of their supports may be met. If you provide scratch paper or testing tickets to students, they will need to be accounted for and picked up at the end of each testing session. Please remember our work with FERPA in protecting student information. No emailing or communicating student information should be conducted during the assessments. Many of our teachers prefer to test their students in their own classrooms, and that is allowed on these assessments. If you'd like to hang a motivational poster, you are certainly welcome to do so. If you would like to provide recreational reading after the assessment to students, you may certainly do so. However, take a look at the box in pink on the screen. We cannot allow any of those within the testing environment. Specifically, we do run into questions about posters in the classroom. Please remove any posters that refer to anything mathematical or based on English language arts in that grade level. We want to make sure that, again, our environment is free of distractions so that students can focus on their work. Now let's go through and talk about each of the assessments that will be given during the spring time. The largest one is the ISAT presented by Smarter Balanced. When a student arrives for testing, this screen should be there. A student should only have to remember 3 things or be provided a testing ticket with 3 items to be able to begin their assessment. They need to know their legal first name. For instance, I would have to write down Michael, not Mike. I would need to know my state ID. It's a 9-digit number. And the student would also need to see a session ID. That'll be generated by the test administrator before the exam begins and should be posted prominently within the room.
Before you begin testing, you'll want to make sure that each student has headphones particularly if they will be taking an ELA assessment, as they are required for ELA assessments. You may also want to take the time to do a sound check before beginning. The test administrator will then begin the test session and make sure that you clearly write the session ID on a board or somewhere that it is clearly posted for all students to read, as they will need that to log in. If you haven't already provided them with test tickets, please do so at this time. And then you will read the script to instruct students on how to begin and what to do during the test. The link to the right here will take you to that testing script. It is Appendix F in the Testing Administration Manual. If by chance you have a student that needs simplified test instructions as an accommodation, you will want to find Appendix I in the Test Administration Manual for further instructions on how to simplify directions. Test managers will want to be walking around the room consistently to make sure that the environment is secure and that students are aware of what they need to be doing to begin their exam. During the test, you may have students with questions you will need to address. They could be simple questions such as, Mr. Nelson?
Yes, Nicole?
How much longer will this test take?
Well, just do your best. I really appreciate the fact that you're keeping focus during the assessment.
Okay. You might also have more specific questions that you probably won't be able to answer in detail, such as, Mr. Nelson,
Yes.
I don't understand what this question is asking.
Well, I can't help you on the question, but take a look at the tools up here. They may be able to help you.
Feel free to point your students to the tools and help instruct them on how to use them if they don't already know. The testing tools handout link on this page will give you a sheet that will explain them further. Please take the time to study that before you actually begin your test. When students pause, they will have a full 20 minutes before the test times out. After the test, make sure that students either remain quietly at their workstation or they can be dismissed to their classroom or another agreed upon area at the test proctor and teacher discretion. Make sure you collect any test tickets or scratch paper. Anything that you provided with the students at the beginning of the test must be collected at the end of the test. Be sure to maintain complete test security and remind students that they are not to discuss individual items, and prepare the testing room for the next exam.
The second assessment that a student may be seeing is their ISAT Science, or in high school, the end of course science examination. Brand new this year, there is no separate login for EOC Science or ISAT Science. All student tests will be taken through the Idaho portal. Test administrators will simply click the different button for science and end of course assessments to begin. Students will log in the exact same way that they had also logged in for their ELA or math assessment. And the script is also verbatim, but again, if you need an extra copy of it, click the button on your screen. In the past, a student had to sit and take the entire end of course assessment or ISAT Science assessment in one sitting. That is now not the case. They can take as long as they need, and the assessment can be spread out over multiple days if needed. However, keep in mind there is a time limit of 10 days from start to finish. Test administrators and proctors, again, should be vigilant in the environment, making sure that you wander around consistently. The most important part on this slide is to make sure that when a student does log in and starts to begin their test, that you double check any student accommodations. A student should have their exact accommodations before they begin their assessment.
Additionally, you will need to assist your students with questions. Some will be simple, such as, can I take a break? And yes, they can take a break, but make sure that you remember that the pause only allows them to stop for 20 minutes, at which point they will not be able to review previous questions. So you might want to encourage them to look over how far they've come before pausing. You might also have specific questions about the questions, such as, Mr. Nelson?
Yes, Nicole?
This question, I think it's both of these. I don't think there's any way I can choose one. They're both right.
Well, you will need to choose one. However, use your comment box and tell the test writer that you think that this question has more than one correct answer.
However you handle those questions during the test, make sure that you maintain a secure test environment and make it as comfortable as possible for the students, encouraging them along the way.
So let's talk about test security. It's the most important part of what we're going to be doing because we need to protect the integrity of the examinations and make sure that our responses and our scores are valid. Please secure any test material at all times, especially things that have student information on them. We will not also be able to provide any unfair advantage to some students. And we need to make sure that every administration of the exam is done appropriately and properly in accordance with the test administration manual. If you are an observer in the classroom, you have specific roles. You can click on any of the buttons down at the bottom to find the specific roles of observers in the test administration manuals in English Language Arts and Science and Mathematics. You should also make sure that you communicate clearly with the school test manager, who's usually the media center manager or the librarian. Also, wander around the room. Make sure that students feel comfortable in your presence. And, please, no unnecessary cell phone use. Stay engaged with the students, and they'll be able to stay engaged with the assessment. Also ensure that no student receives any improper assistance, and make sure that they are doing their own best work.
If something happens during testing that you think jeopardizes the validity of the test results, you'll want to make sure that you report any incident or irregularity to the school testing manager as soon as possible. These could be things such as a student you think might be cheating, or possibly going back to a previous session, maybe having unallowable accommodations, or a device that they're not allowed to have. You might also see students that you think they just clicked through that test and you're not sure that's going to be a valid result. Let your school testing coordinator know that as well. Please note that violations such as these may result in reporting to the Idaho Professional Standards Commission and/or the State Division of Educational Certification. The test security incident log at the bottom of this page will be used by our school test coordinators to report any incidents or irregularities that occur. A quick list of things that you're going to want to do during testing. Both administrators and observers are going to ensure that students are using the correct student ID and that they're on the correct exam. Administrators and observers must securely shred any test materials, scratch paper, draft essays, other handouts that they had during the event, and if they need to store materials in between multiple days of testing, that's the test administrator's job to make sure those are securely stored. All improprieties must be reported within 1 day of learning of the occurrence to the school test manager, and a district investigation must be completed within 30 days.
However, there are also some things that we cannot do. Our test administrators and observers cannot look over people's tests. We cannot allow them to review or analyze, take any pictures of them, or allow students to use anything that would not be allowed, such as notes, textbooks, cell phones, things that they bring in that we do not provide for them. Any testing items should, for the students, be removed, such as their backpack should be moved away from the student before they begin. And test administrators also cannot copy or retain any test materials to be able to use. Most importantly, no user should share their login information with anyone, even if they're an authorized user. Well, that's it. You've completed our administration video. We encourage you now to click the link on your screen to fill out the state's test security agreement. Your response, as well as a virtual signature, will be kept on file for 2 years. There may be some things also during this presentation that you did not see. If that's the case, you can go to Info Center under the link of Teaching and Learning, District Assessments, or click the District Assessments button on your screen, or just dial us here at the Division of Teaching and Learning. We are very glad to be able to answer any questions. Thank you so much for your attentiveness.